Horror movies are some of the most enjoyable pieces of fiction in the entertainment industry, and so many of them top my all-time favorite movies, whether it be a classic 80s slasher which, while goofy in its scares, rich in innovative storytelling, or a modern psychological thriller that makes you question your own existence as you sit alone in your room. The fear of the unknown is thrilling, and that burst of adrenaline is unmatched, and I've seen a lot of them. But ever since I started really getting into them, I've been keeping a list, ranking every single horror movie I have ever seen that I remember. Because, unfortunately, there are going to be quite a few on this list that, well, technically I've seen them. I saw them when I was like 6, and I don't remember a single thing about them. But yeah, some of these are getting into the debate of, like, are they really horror movies? But I kind of just looked up, are they horror movies? And yeah, I didn't want to, so some stuff that isn't really that scary is going to be on here. But who cares? You can debate it if you really want to, but I don't really care. So, strap in, and let's get ready for some thrills, chills, kills, bills, pills, wills, other words that rhymes with thrills, and extremely hot takes. Yeah, you guys are gonna get a tiny bit mad at this video. Speaking of which, number 59. Now, every YouTuber that regularly reviews a piece of fiction usually have some sort of rival piece of media, something that, while many others definitely dislike, no one quite despises it on the level they do. Scott DeWaz has Chibi Robo Ziplash, Shay Frillis has Surf's Up 2, LS Mark has the episode where Brian gets run over, Saber Spark has,
seriously, new cartoon.
So, what's mine? Well, I haven't done a very good job of hiding it. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 59, taking the spot for the worst horror movie I have ever seen, and one of the worst movies I have ever seen by a fairly wide margin, is, of course, 2019's, produced by A24, The Lighthouse. Told you it'd be a lot of hot takes. I've hyped this up a lot on my channel. The Lighthouse has literally been sitting in my garbage since the start, but now I can finally talk about how much I despise it. There is so much stuff I have to say about this terrible movie that 2 videos after this, I am making a full review of it, just trashing on it. It sucks. I hate it. Every other review online praises this absolute dumpster fire for, oh, its acting and cinematography, which I can admit can be pretty good. Besides making the whole movie black and white, I don't know whose decision that was, but all of them fail to mention any other component that makes a movie a movie. They don't talk about the story, or the characters, or the pacing, or the writing, because they all heavily drag the film down. But it's scary. Yes, I'll admit, it's scary. Very scary, but that doesn't make it a good movie. Horror movies can be good from its scares, and that can elevate it, but if the only good thing about a movie is that it's scary, it fails as a movie. So, let's go over what makes a movie good, and how it has none of it. You need a good plot, and while the plot could have been good, they just waste it. It's so boring. It just felt like idea first, story later. You need good characters, which, I mean, I won't blame it since it only has 2, but both are extremely predictable and similar, and they're just like the same character, and that twist at the end, it was so out of left field. It didn't wow me. It was just like, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Need a good story, which this doesn't have at all. You want to know what the story is? You really want to know what this widely acclaimed, quote-unquote masterpiece, what its story is? 2 guys in a room going insane for 2 hours. That's it. It drags on and on without having anything to do. It always leans on, oh, what's gonna happen? When you can immediately tell what's gonna happen within the first 5 fucking minutes. Spoiler alert for any of the 2 people who still felt like watching this, he goes insane. Crazy plot twist that is in the literal synopsis. How interesting. It is just 2 guys in a room going insane for 2 hours, being so smug and obnoxious about how, oh, I wonder what will happen. It's so pretentious. They both die and the movie did nothing impactful. That's what happens, which you can tell after watching it for like 10 minutes. Oh my god, they're all gonna die. That's crazy. Wow, how cool. And my brother, who is a huge fan of this movie, always tries to say that I technically didn't fairly watch it, which, okay, yes. I was technically playing on my PC while they were watching it, but to be fair, I had my headphones off and I was like looking at it for most of it, and then I turned it off at the first hour, and while technically I've never seen the ending, I did look it up afterwards and like watch the clip, so technically I've never sat down and watched the whole thing fully, but like, still, I've seen enough. I don't want to rewatch this ever again. This movie is so shit. It's so shit. I just don't, I hate it. I can't wait to make the solo video on this and rant about it 80 times more. Let's luckily move on. 58, Halloween Ends. I went in with pretty low expectations after seeing the Rotten Tomatoes score, but I still held out hope because, like, my love for the series is very big. I do love the Halloween series. Oh boy, that was a mistake. For the first 30 minutes, I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. Then it all fell down. I know you all know the biggest problem with this movie, which is, of course, the fact that it isn't a Halloween movie. Sure, the title might say that and all the promotional material, but by lying to myself about it, I can much easier pretend that this movie never existed, and it was just, the series ended in 2018, and Halloween Kills was just a joke, guys. They literally just straight up went, oh no, actually, Michael Myers, the unstoppable murderer, who has had hundreds of kills to his name, can actually be beaten by, like, a 90-year-old man, by a 20-year-old with zero weapon because he was fueled by evil, which, by the way, is so stupid. What made Myers scary was the fact that he had no rhyme or reason to doing what he does. He didn't think it was funny, he wasn't insane, he was just purely and simply evil. So to pull a FNAF and make it in some weird substance that can be measured and applied to people like makeup, it's so odd, it's so weird. Why would they go in that direction? The best part of the movie came at the last 10 minutes, where we finally got to the much-advertised Laurie versus Michael fight. In the last 10 minutes! And, by the way, get this, it sucked! It was just them punching each other awkwardly and eventually killing Michael Myers by, get this, throwing a fridge on him and stabbing him. Like, okay, he's been stabbed in the neck, fallen down 3 stories, been shot 80 times down a hole, been decapitated, has his eyes shot out, got electrocuted and burned. And this is what kills him? A fridge? And a knife? I get that technically it didn't kill him, he was just, like, incapacitated. But guys, it's a fridge and a knife. He's been dealt way worse and just got right back up as if literally nothing happened. What the hell? This would literally do nothing to him. Anyways, this movie sucked. It sucked out what made Halloween good and replaced it with the need for endless sequels. 57, Halloween Resurrection. Okay, technically I haven't seen this in quite a bit, but I do remember most of it. Turns out, leaning into that YouTube thing was a terrible idea. Ghost hunting is not a very good idea for a Halloween movie. It was just really boring and all the characters were stupider than ever. I don't really have a lot to say. I promise I'm trying to focus on the positives, guys, but it's just awful. Nothing really that good. And Busta Rhymes was an interesting casting choice. Number 56, Halloween H2O. Again, everyone says that this is one of the best Halloween movies. I say, what? It's just super generic without offering anything good or unique. The whole time watching it, I just felt like this is the type of movie that, like, teenagers would go see. This is just like a textbook, quote-unquote, horror movie. It doesn't do anything special. It's just boring. I promise the next one isn't a Halloween movie. We've been doing a lot of them. 55, Goosebumps Haunted Halloween. Wow. Just wow. I haven't seen this in like over 6 years, but I still remember exactly how I felt about it. It's fine. It's perfectly generic and boring and has worse characters. Jack Black isn't in it for more than 20 minutes, has a worse story, worse ending, and the middle was just there, I guess. Kinda just existed, and I will now forget about it. Also, why do they have to add an entire scene about cryptocurrency? Who was asking for that? Oh, here we go. Number 54, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, this is not the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is not one of the many sequels, none of which I've seen. This is the original. I went in with very high expectations and just went out kind of tired and bored. It was scary, I guess, and it did have kind of cool kills, and I guess it was inspired, like, it did inspire DVD, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Other than that, and, like, the way it's filmed, it kind of just sucked. I felt like for most of it, it was just like stretching out the plot that could have been a short film. The middle is just teenagers dying because they're stupid and they have to be. And then it's just nighttime suddenly, and like that's just kind of just torture for a bit, and then it ends with like an admittedly good shot. I don't know. There's so many good elements, but I feel like it's just holding itself back all the time. Just because, I don't know. I don't really like movies that are just meant to be uncomfortable because they're meant to be uncomfortable. Like, I like movies that scare me, but I don't really like movies where it's just like, oh, look at how disgusting and awful the things happening on screen are to these characters. Isn't that just funny? I like the villain, I guess. That's about it. It's fine. 53, It Chapter 2. It's crazy how this actually does have a lot of things that are better than the first. Like, I think the comedy did actually work for me a bit more here, and some of the aspects of the characters were improved. Like, I literally knew nothing about any of them in the first except for Bev and Bill and Ben. But in this one, I felt like I did actually know all of them. I think some attempts at being scary kind of worked. The final battle was kind of cool. Alright, that's it. This movie is so funnily bad. I laughed every single time they tried to be funny. It is just like... It was just either Pennywise making the stupidest face or some CGI monster. It was way more funny than scary. Also, this movie was just too long. There were so many little moments that could have just been cut. I didn't think anybody even remembers that side plot with the inmate. And do I even need to talk about how, or say the way that they killed it was dumb? I mean, you know it was. Okay, yes, I've watched the film theory. I know that the trinkets didn't work because they didn't matter and they just needed to get over them and not burn them, but the whole ritual stuff was just so convoluted and confusing, and watching them bully it into a pancake, it's stupid. You guys should make a drinking game about every time I say stupid. You'll probably have at least 6 strokes by the end. Number 52, The Conjuring 2. If you're gonna watch Conjuring 2, watch it with friends, because this was honestly one of the funniest movies I've ever watched with my friends. It wasn't very good as a movie, though. It relied way more on CGI and jump scares and removes a lot of the suspense of the first. Also, name me one characteristic of any of the characters. Go on. I'm waiting. It's not awful, it's just really bad. But, like, so unbelievably funny. 51, Scream 2. Time for another hot take. I was very excited for this, as I saw a bit on TV a couple months before, and I thought it was great. And the first is one of my favorite movies of all time, period, so this has to be good, right? Then I watched it, and how in the world is this so liked? Everyone says this is, like, the best in the franchise. What? Like, what? What about this is good? It's just Scream 1, but with the worst characters, worst villains, worst ending, worst pacing, worst writing. It's just so much worse. For the first, 20 minutes, I loved it, and then they just ruined it. I don't understand. Okay, I promise the next one won't be a huge hot take. 50, Megan. I refuse to call this movie M3gan. That is stupid. I thought it would be, funnily bad, but it's just kind of, boringly okay, which disappointed me a ton. Even though technically it's still better than if it would be, funnily bad. I would way rather watch a movie that is just, bad shit awful, but it's so funny, than a movie that's, okay, 5 out of 10, but just, really boring, you know? But... whatever, it wasn't offensive or anything. It was just nothingness, and I don't want to think about it for the next 20 years. 49, Scream 6. Back to the hot takes. Let's take a look at the tomato score for this. Oh my god. How? Just how? This movie sucks. If you legitimately like it, it shows that you are just so easily roped in by tropes. I mean that you're a valid person with a valid opinion that I'm gonna honor. Yeah, let's go with that. This movie isn't very good. It has a lot of the same problems as Scream 2 does, where I just feel like it's kind of just taking a super generic plot and just making it bigger in scale, ended up making it every aspect worse. It's not the worst Scream movie, and I did like the twist, and the first 20 minutes and some of the kills were good, but it was still just really generic. Ghostface was pretty good too, I guess. My main issue with this movie is that it just tries to set itself up to be huge in scale, even with the New York setting. It still just hits the same story beats as every other Scream movie. Especially the fact that they, state multiple times this in the movie, that they aren't messing around, that these characters no longer have plot armor, and a lot of them will die, yeah, no one's safe now, and at first, that does seem to be what's happening. Even though some of them, like the legacy character that the horror movies are, obsessed with doing now, didn't really deserve death, the movie felt like it had some balls to do some crazy stuff. It killed off a lot of people. But then, by the end, it's revealed that pretty much none of them actually died. Nearly all of them ended up surviving in the end for the sole purpose of making endless sequels, which, I'm sure is going well. But I feel like the fact that it's so smug in the beginning, yet so shallow by the end, it just makes it really bad. 48, Gretel and Hansel. I watched this with a friend at his place, and to be honest, it was just, really boring. I was only half paying attention. It's kind of just a confusing retelling of the fairy tale that tried to take itself seriously, but ultimately was just, really uninteresting. Guys, I'm really hoping we're gonna get to the good ones soon. I'm so tired. I'm literally fucking writing this at 2 a.m. Please, God. 47, Goosebumps. Finally! Now we're getting to the actual good movies. I watched this a ton as a kid, and I can see why. I read the books, I watched the series, and it makes sense. I love the movies as much as I did, but does it hold up after all these years? In my opinion, yeah, Jack Black does an incredible job and makes every scene he's in a delight. It has surprisingly good CGI for 2015, the monsters' designs were, very faithful. It did kind of lose me with the twist and the attempts at emotional moments or relationships, but when it's just a goofy movie, it nails so much. 46, Halloween Kills. Remember when I was talking about Megan and I said I much prefer a bad movie that's fun over a boring okay movie? That's what this is. Halloween Kills is a pretty bad movie. It was just too fun not to rank it this high. Some of the kills were actually laughable. I laughed at some of the kills, and even though Mike does get some pretty gruesome kills to his name, by the second half, the kills were just so goofy. When the town thought that they could kill him by beating him with a couple baseball bats, and then he just stand up and killed all of them, that was hysterical. Or also that one where the girl tried to kill him, and then he just opened a door and she shot herself. That was so funny. Is that wrong to say? That kills were funny? Anyways, if you look at it as a movie, it kind of sucked. Laurie wasn't in it for 4/5 of it. The ending sucked, and the mom, she just got character development, and you kill her off. Come on, dude. And don't even get me started on the evil dies tonight. It's a bad movie, but I have so much fun watching it. 45, The Birds. It's fine. I went in with huge expectations. After hearing the premise, I couldn't help but get excited. It's such a cool premise for a horror movie. But I feel with this huge scale, it goes nowhere. It literally takes place in the same location the entire movie. But besides the failed expectations, which I hope will be met once I watch some of the other Purge movies, it's a pretty good home invasion movie. It had likable characters, some pretty good scares, and nice pacing. 44, Freddy vs. Jason. Guys, this is the B movie of the horror genre. That's literally the best way to describe it. It is so, laughably terrible that I broke down multiple times during the movie while I was watching it with my family. At the time of watching it, I'd only seen one Freddy movie and no Jason movie because he's not in the first one. But even if you have no clue who these characters are, watch the movie. It's so funny how much they don't take it seriously and just run with the comedy. 43, The Black Phone. I watched this one shortly after it came out, and, okay. There's something in the script that is no longer real, so I'm just gonna skip over that. Essentially, my my viewing experience of this was kind of ruined. I don't want to go too much in detail. It's more personal stuff, but I didn't really get to watch this in the most ideal state. But the movie itself, it kind of drags with the spacing, and there aren't really that many characters or interesting places that the story goes. But to be fair, it didn't have a lot to go off. It's a perfectly fine horror movie, but I seriously have zero clue how in the world they're gonna make a sequel. Where the hell do you even go from there? From here. 42. Cocaine Bear. A bear did cocaine. A bear did cocaine. Shout out to the best movie, cinematic masterpiece, biggest achievement of humanity. What can I even say about this? Hasn't been said already. A bear did cocaine. In all seriousness, it's a fucking gleeful time. I can't even lie. It fills me with an indescribable level of excitement and my joy and funniness. Watch this movie. Even if it does kind of suck, watch it. When I was in the theater, my brother brought his friends. Actually, wait, no. I'm gonna save that for another video. But there is something really funny that happened while watching this. So if you want to hear that, then wait until another video where I'm gonna go in depth. Because watching this was, holy shit, one of the best experiences I've ever fucking had in my life. Okay, next one now. 41. Dr. Sleep. For the first 2 hours, this was genuinely near a masterpiece. The ominous villain, the likable main characters with an amazing cast, some visually stunning cinematography. The writing was great. It was just perfect. Then the movie remembered it's supposed to be a Shining sequel and crammed as many lame references as they could into 5 minutes. As a huge fan of The Shining, it felt like such a big contrast from one of the most brutal scenes in film history where they suck the steam out of a child too. Nice party, isn't it? Yeah, the ending was fine, I guess, and the way they defeated the villain, it was just way too easily. I liked Jack coming back, I guess, but I don't know. There were so many good aspects, but quite a few bad aspects. 40, Little Shop of Horrors. I went in expecting literally nothing, but I was kind of surprised at how good it was. The music, the characters, and the story, but definitely Audrey 2 carried this movie. He was so delightfully entertaining. Can't wait to see the musical version of this, because from what I've heard, it's 10 times better. 39, Escape Room. Escape Room is a movie about people escaping rooms. feel like this is both a creative spin on the Saw franchise and a PG-13 ripoff of the Saw franchise at the same time. But the rooms were actually really interesting, and I grew on with the characters. Also, the cinematography was really great, the sets were really good, very creative stuff. And I might as well talk about these in the same section because they're basically the same movie, because right above it is Escape Room Champion of Tournament of Escape Room 2. Slightly less interesting characters, and the twist kind of sucked. And the ending was very confusing and will likely never be resolved. But it did have far better rooms, so it's slightly above the last one, which that would go at the 38th spot. So number 37, Edward Scissorhands. Now we're getting the movies that I actually consider to be pretty good. Starting off with Edward Scissorhands. Scissorhands. Okay, whatever. I don't know if it was just because my respect for Tim Burton has completely diminished, as yours should too, but it didn't hit me quite as hard as everyone else. Don't get me wrong, Johnny Depp's acting was really good. I kind of forgot how much range he has in acting. I kind of forgot he was a person and not the funny internet Amber Heard man. But yeah, no, it's alright, I guess. I'm so tired, guys. Anyways, good movie. I don't know why the girl never just went up to visit him. It wasn't that difficult. Like once in 30 years, you didn't just think to just walk up the hill and talk to him? Really? 36, The Evil Dead. Why the hell is it called The Evil Dead? It's Evil Dead. It's not The Evil Dead. Sam Raimi sure does know how to make cheesy movies. Is Evil Dead a pretty campy, not at all scary, weird, and super well-made movie that feels more like an SNL skit than a movie? Yes, but it also has really good acting with Ash, great practical effects, and one of the most fun horror movies I've seen in a while. Plus, that third act is so good, and it actually is kind of scary. I didn't think it's scary, but it kind of did, and that third act was actually incredible with the cinematography and stuff. Just great. But, what the hell was up with the tree scene? 35, Jaws. Okay, to be fair, it's been, almost 10 years since I've seen it, but I remember a little bit of it. I'll probably rewatch it. It'll probably go up on the list when I rewatch it. I'm just putting it here to be safe. I'm pretty sure that, the first act was good, middle was alright, and then it kind of drags in the end, but, the ending is pretty good. I think it's a little overrated, but I don't know, because I haven't seen it in forever. Anyways, 34, The Conjuring. Now, I know what actually happened in the real-life story. Well, supposedly, I'm not really a believer of ghosts, but I know what the original story was that this is based on. And this actually kind of seems a little tame by comparison. I do applaud them for not doing too much CGI stuff, like the second. It's mostly just, cool, creepy ghost stuff. Mostly. But I still feel like it needed to be more accurate. Other than that, it's a perfectly okay movie. Good, even. But, why did this become one of the most popular horror movies ever? I don't get it. 33, Friday the 13th. Pretty good. Miss Pamela worked really well as a twist villain. Most of the characters were really enjoyable. The kills were gruesome. Just really great. I just really wish it ended here, because from what I've heard, the series only goes down from here. 32, Carrie. 2 years ago, I decided that I wanted to binge watch a ton of horror movies that I've never seen before during the month of October. And this is makes up most of this list, because I watched 30 of them in the span of 1 month. And this was actually one of the last ones on the list, because I didn't really feel like the plot would go anywhere, and I don't think I would care about it. But surprisingly, it was super good. Carrie is just such a likable protagonist. It's really unfair that everyone thinks she's some monster when she really isn't. The kids in this movie do really fucked up shit. And even though I thought it would go nowhere, the plot didn't drag. Sure, nothing scary happened up until the end, but the point was to build up to that wonderful ending. Great movie. I would really highly recommend it. 31, Nope. So out of the 3 Jordan Peele horror movies, excluding the Candyman reboot, I haven't seen any of the Candyman movies, but I'm planning to. The general consensus is that Get Out is the best, Us is much, much worse, and Nope is just kind of okay. And I don't agree with that sentiment at all. We'll get to the other 2 later, but Nope is amazing. Sure, even though it is starting to go into the dangerous territory of The Lighthouse, where it's more artistic than horror, there's still plenty of moments that shook me to my core. The alien was such an interesting villain that was a super creative concept. I thought the way they beat it was great. I liked all the characters, and Jordan Peele's comedy is great as ever. When I saw the monkey scene, I genuinely had to pause the movie and take a couple deep breaths because of how wonderfully horrifying it was. But yeah, overall, just like a great movie that can be a little confusing or drag a bit in its plot, and it is a bit messy with its message and tone, but it's still great. 30. It. Now, even though it does have the same cheap CGI jump scares, the story is just way, way better. The story makes much more sense and flows more naturally. The characters, even if some are more forgettable, play off of each other pretty well. The ending is way less stupid. The cinematography in the final battle is really well done. It's just way better in almost every single way. 29. Jurassic Park. Okay, so the same sentiment I had with Jaws, except I haven't seen this in much longer, so I legitimately only remember like 2 scenes from it. But from what I do remember, it was good. I promise I'll rewatch it to get an actual opinion on it soon. Don't get mad at me for putting it this low. This is just the safest place to put it. 28. The Gremlins. Okay, so to make things clear, I don't really consider this a horror movie, but Google Docs and I know there's some people out there who are going to be like, oh, but it actually is a horror movie. And Google says it is kind of, so that's why it's here. If Edward Scissorhands is on here, this is going to be on here too. But yeah, not much to say. It's a really timeless classic that holds up today because of its great characters and nice story. Also, it's not a Christmas movie, and if you actually think that, then you are so unbelievably wrong. 27. Poltergeist. My expectations were pretty high for this, and I had not known a single thing about it going in. But it was kind of underwhelming. Don't get me wrong, it was still a great movie, but I felt like by the third act it just mostly dragged on, and I just really wanted it to just end at that point. Also, maybe because I had a bad stomachache, but that's besides the point. Great movie with great visuals, and surprisingly did have a good concept, but I don't know, it was not the strongest execution. 26. Beetlejuice. Alex Brightman, Michael Keaton, Beetlejuice is great. I haven't seen the musical yet, which I've heard is better, but this one is still so timeless and such an icon. The whole cast does a fantastic job, the pacing is great, the story is so unique, the sets and designs, you've heard it all before, it's amazing. Update, okay, so I actually have seen the musical now. Yeah, no, it's definitely way better. In fact, it actually brought this down a little bit because the musical just takes everything and makes it so much better. But yeah, this is so great. Good job, Tim. I still hate you. You suck. 25. Hard Eyes. Okay, so most of the time I abbreviate or shorten my letterbox reviews of movies so I can talk about them more in a video, but for some reason with this movie, I made the review really long. It basically has all my thoughts on it, so I'm just going to read it out right now because it's basically everything I thought about it, you know. This is actually, wait, here, let me go on my letterbox voice. This is a surprisingly great movie. I only went to see it because of the good reviews, but I expected something closer to a 6 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, but darn, this was good. It was a really true horror movie. I expected them to cheap out and focus a bit too much on the romance side of it, but no. I feel like it's a perfect mix of horror and romance. The kills are creative and gruesome. The Hard Eyes killer is such a great, looming threat that gets to shine. The comedy works really well for the most part, and the whole thing's just shot really well. That being said, there are issues. I won't spoil anything, but the movie does sort of a fake-out ending, where it makes you think the movie is over and then suddenly throws you into a surprise third act, and while it did do a good job at surprisingly, it feels like it could have been done a little less awkward way. They hammer it in that the movie is over, and then they're just like, nope, there's actually more. And I feel like it just went on for a little bit too long. But still, a really awesome, creative movie. Please can we get more original horror movies instead of sequels until the end of time? Yep, that's basically it. I did forget to mention that the side character that the girl is friends with is kind of annoying at times, and the twist is with the killers is one of the most predictable twists I've seen in a while, but it was also just a little too much Scream. I get inspiration, but whatever. At least it was actually good, unlike Scream 6. So yeah, very good. Unexpectedly very good. 24, Child's Play. Guys, this was just it was just as good as I thought it'd be. Normally movies either exceed or go lower than my expectations, but this was right on it. It was scary, the cast was great, Chucky was actually a pretty intimidating villain, Andy's one of the best child actors I've seen in a long time, and when Chucky dropped that line at the very end before they burnt him, and then Andy said that, that was cold, that sent chills down my spine. I do think it took way too long to actually beat Chucky. They killed him 8 times. It took 20 minutes to kill him. I mean, I'm still glad because we did get that awesome burnt Chucky design, which is still so creepy. But other than that, horror classic. It's amazing. 23, A Nightmare on Elm Street. The original Nightmare on Elm Street is such a classic. From some legitimately amazing shots to the pretty enjoyable characters, the creative story with honestly great pacing, it's just great. However, a huge aspect of the movie I thought I'd really love, but ended up just kind of liking, was Freddy himself. I feel like for such a threatening concept for a villain, it was kind of ruined by such a campy, corny character who makes that concept not work nearly as well as everyone else says it does. Like, I feel like if you're gonna have a terrifying concept of a killer that stalks you in your dreams, why make him constantly cracking lazy jokes? I don't know, it just feels wrong. And the ending did kind of feel lackluster. It was also just kind of confusing to what happened, and I feel like they never explained it properly. I really hope this movie can get like a Halloween 2018 style requel to the first, so that it can finally explain what happened. 22, A Quiet Place Part 2. I watched the original around the time this one came out, so I thought it makes sense to watch it around the same time. So of course I waited 3 years later at a sleepover to watch it. I was expecting a lot because of how good the original was, and well, in many ways it did live up to expectations. In many ways it also didn't. It had a little worse pacing, worse characters, worse story. I feel like it really tried to make things bigger in scale compared to the relatively simple plot of the first one. I feel like it does suffer a bit from the fact that the first movie set up these aliens as nearly unstoppable. So I feel like I'm in the second half of the movie, they beat the monsters way too quickly and easily. And it feels like the contrast between the first half and the second half makes the pacing really bad. And most of the new characters are just kind of forgettable. Even so, it's still a pretty great movie. The main characters are still great, the monsters are great, the story is pretty good. It sounds like I'm trashing it, but it was honestly still a really, really good movie. So yeah, very good. I don't know what that reference is. These are the parts of the audio you don't get to see. Parts where I have to close CapCut, walk downstairs where the Wi-Fi is better, start recording, so that by the time I get in the closet with bad Wi-Fi, it'll still be recording. 21, The Blair Witch Project. Now we're getting into the movies I consider, like, actually amazing. Starting off with a cult classic, Blair Witch Project. I was a bit worried about the movie, as I wasn't sure how the way it was filmed would make it enjoyable, but now I wish I could rip those words out of my mouth, because oh my god, there's literally no world where I would want this to have been filmed normally. The shaky cam really makes it believable, and I can see why so many people back in the day believed it was real. The whole movie, once it got going, really had an overwhelming sense of dread, elevated by the shockingly terrifying imagery. Like, the way it's presented, it really makes you feel like you're right there with the characters, being lost with them. And whenever it turns to night and you know stuff is about to go down, it's just, like, because the first half is so grounded in reality, and then it just randomly switches to be, like, you start to believe the Blair Witch is real. You start to believe that this stuff really happened to the characters. It's just, like, when they said that the map was missing, like that was insane. And do I even need to mention how perfect that ending was? It relates back to the start in which what seems like rumors or ramblings about the witch kills people, to see that it was actually true. Like, it's just perfect. If you haven't seen this movie, please just watch it. It is just great. 20, Hellraiser. This was not at all what I thought it'd be. I assumed it'd be a regular slasher with demons hunting down teens, and I was actually completely surprised when it was some weird movie about a woman having an affair with some, like, boss who's, like, crime boss, who's actually a part of the house, but he gets, like, resurrected as a corpse or something. Anyways, it was actually really good. Obviously, the best part is the Cenobites. Their performance knocks it out of the park, and the effects and writing work very well. If I had one could play it, it's just not enough screen time for the Cenobites. They have, like, 10 minutes at most, and they don't really do a lot in the movie. I'm not sure if I would have preferred a traditional slasher focus on them. I guess we'll never know, because there is no way I'm watching a single one of the 800 sequels to this. But yeah, great movie. 19, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. No, I'm not joking. This isn't a bit. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is legitimately this good. Sure, the acting can be hit or miss. It's very corny and not scary, and the pacing isn't the best. What it still manages to do is astound me. The rest of my family all hate this movie, which I just can't get, from the amazingly creative and sometimes shocking kills, to the absolute wonderful clown puppetry, to the absolutely wonderful sets, to the dialogue, to how it just wastes no time getting the killer clown rampage is just great. There is no movie I want a sequel more than this one. It doesn't take itself seriously, and that's the best part. It's just pure comedy. It even has one of the best opening theme songs ever. From one born every minute. Don't you know that ones make us laugh, some make us cry. These clowns only gonna make you die. Everybody's running when the circus coming to the town. Ow, bow, bow. You'll be dead on arrival from the likes of the killer clown. Okay, but yeah, it is just, this is my guilty pleasure movie. It's so amazing. I love it so much. Number 18, A Quiet Place Day 1. This came out at a time when it seemed like no good horror movie was coming out. You know, and it single-handedly got me excited for movies coming out this year. I wrote this in 2024. I've been playing this video for a long time. They made the death angels actually kind of scary. The characters are endearing. The sacrifice in the end actually made me a little sad. The cat was cool. There's just so much to like, from the amazing cinematography and the effects, the horror elements. It's just a great horror movie. 17, Beetlejuice. Oh, golly gee, you put Beetlejuice 2 over the first one? Recency bias? No, it's just actually way better. Sure, the musical is better than the both, but Beetlejuice 2 just improves the original in so many ways. For one, Beetlejuice is in it for more than 18 minutes. The practical effects melded with the CGI works surprisingly well and makes it feel like an 80s movie. You can hardly tell there was a long gap with the movies. Jenna Ortega and all the rest of the cast, the rest of the cast are really great. The twist of that one guy was actually surprising. That being said, there are still problems. There are simply too many things happening at once, and the movie doesn't balance them well. It's to the point that I don't even know what the main plot is supposed to be. Is it the stuff with Beetlejuice's ex, the stuff with the ghost boyfriend, the stuff with Astrid's dad, or the stuff with Lydia's boyfriend? Wait, no, that's the same thing. I just said that. I wrote the same thing twice. I'm sure good at writing scripts, aren't I? There's just like too much. However, I do not care. No one goes to a Beetlejuice movie for the plot. You go for the fun stuff. And this movie is full of it. The thing that makes this movie better than the first one is simply the fact that there's just more fun used with Beetlejuice. The first used him a little too sparingly, but they really outdid themselves in this one with him. Like, they made him almost as likable as he is in the musical. Almost. Seriously, I can't stress enough how much I adore the musical. 16, Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, guys, I was really worried about the FNAF movie. From the reviews to the trailers, I was hyper-analyzing everything. But on that fateful night, I got the chance to go see it. And I was just astonished and amazed by how good it was. I see so many people online now bashing it for no reason. The critics were so unbelievably wrong, it's not even funny. And as a huge fan of the games and lore, it's crazy how good they managed to be faithful to the games while keeping it creative. I guess if I had one issue, I think they didn't really, integrate the actual FNAF gameplay well. Like, they didn't create the door or the hall light buttons, and, it didn't, run out of power and didn't do the...
Who's coming? Huh?
I really wish it did that. And it wasn't, resource managing. He wasn't inside the office handling power, but other than that, they just did such a great job. They tell such a great story that can be enjoyed even as a non-FNAF fan, with an amazing cast, wonderful sets, impressive animatronic suits, great cameos, great writing, gruesome kills, and that spring lock scene was just amazing. Many people complain about it not being scary enough, but playing a FNAF game isn't that scary unless you're playing FNAF 4. It's more of setting up a feeling of wondering if you'll die and the anxiety that comes with that. It's always been more stressful than scary, so I don't think it really needed to be that scary, which I think the movie sets it up pretty well. So yeah, can't wait for the many sequels. I will be enjoying every single one of them. 15, Scream 5. Or just Scream. I don't know why they couldn't have just called it Scream 5, but whatever. Wow, this is just not nearly talked about enough. I saw the trailer and assumed it was just a ripoff of Halloween 2018, but when I saw it, I was blown away by just how good it was. I was legitimately not expecting Amber to be the killer, and some of the kills were so gruesome. The legacy characters felt earned and not just another nostalgia bait. Nearly all of the new characters I loved, and I really respected the movie's decision to not be a requel, rather just a regular sequel to all the Scream movies. 6 was a massive step down for the franchise, and the whole thing really should have ended here, but at least 5 showed that they still have some creativity left in them. 14, A Quiet Place. I had no idea this was so beloved as a movie, but I am so glad it is. They took a great concept and made the most out of it. It showed by... love messing up. I sure do love messing up, guys. It showed that by setting up a threat from something as simple as a slight noise, it means that any noise can terrify the viewers as if they were there. Along with that, it just has great monsters, a wonderful plot with some pretty good pacing and fleshed out characters and world. It creates a feeling of hopelessness, yet when they finally realize how to beat the monsters is one of the coolest and most relieving moments of the movie. It's just great. 13, Psycho. I had low expectations for this. I expected to be a boring, overrated, slow movie that aged poorly, but wow, this was really good. The acting with Norman works so well for me. You can tell just how completely insane he is from the way he moves like a predator stalking his prey, reminding me a lot of Michael Myers, except he appears way more human, and that ending when it just all comes together, it's so memorable and so good. 12, Predator. Woo! This is such a classic for such a good reason. The bright contrast from the war movie in the first half, really only there to make you think you know what this movie is supposed to be, to the terrifying alien movie in the second, which is just what the whole thing was building towards. It's just great. The whole thing, it's just feels so stranding and so alone. It feels like at any point the Predator can just emerge from the shadows and take out one of the group, and that final standoff is just perfect. 11, Us. This is often regarded as being much less good than Get Out, an overall mediocre movie, but I disagree quite a bit. I love this movie. Despite its admittedly fine moments and criticisms, it still shines so well. The first half is very scary, legitimately horrifies me with some scenes. It does lose a bit of its track in the second half, focusing much more on the deep messages and characters, but I really didn't mind. Unlike a certain movie, this handled that artsy style much better, and that twist was crazy good. The ending and the way it was all shown and shot, truly another Jordan Peele masterpiece. Now we're getting to the top 10, starting with 10, Coraline. At first, Coraline was way lower on the list, and I barely considered it a horror movie. Then I rewatched it. Oh my god. Sure, on the surface it might be mistaken for like a kid's film, but do not let it fool you. The ending to this day is still so scary. But besides the horror, it's just an amazing movie. The animation is still impressive, the tone and style is very good, and it was amazingly directed. The titular character is one of my all-time favorite movie protagonists, and the decisions she makes feels so realistic. The story is such a creative idea, don't even get me started on the villain. The Beldam is disgustingly horrifying. Her final form still gets a good scare out of me, and while I think the movie should have ended a little sooner, the pacing is great for the most part. I did actually read the book about a year ago. I thought it was good, but this movie just knocks it out of the park with the story. 9, Get Out. Speaking of Jordan Peele, oh my god, Get Out is amazing. From the cinematography to the cast to the pacing to the score to the message to the tone and direction and characters and ending and story and literally everything you could ever want. If I had one issue, I wish the gruesome kills got started a little sooner, but the movie is still set up wonderfully, creepy tone and tension throughout, and it just all builds up, and it's just so good. Great stuff. 8, The Sixth Sense. Yeah, it's not number 6. I know, a huge wasted opportunity or whatever. Anyways, going back to that list of movies I made, the one I wanted to watch the least was The Sixth Sense. I was expecting it to be boring and stupid and badly paced, but decided to watch it solely out of its popularity, and my parents said they loved it as kids. So I sat down and wow. The opening really grabbed my attention well and intrigued me, but surely it would become boring immediately after, right? Halfway through the movie, and no, even though it's not inherently scary or has that many monsters or ghosts or kills, it still is holding my attention. But surely it will get worse from here? No, it only got better. The sheer ability to hold my attention this well in a boring sounding plot is astounding. I haven't felt this way since Oppenheimer. Yet this was just amazing. The gripping story, the captivating characters, the striking imagery, and do I even need to mention the twist? For spoiler purposes, I'm gonna avoid naming it. Trust me, you want to go into it blind, but looking back, there was just so much amazing foreshadowing, and the way it finally clicked was perfect. 7, Scream. This also used to be way higher, but after rewatching it a couple times, it's kind of fallen down for me. Does that mean it's not good? Absolutely not. This is amazing. I originally had no interest in seeing it, but wow, such a classic. The murder mystery elements, plus the likable characters, amazing villain, gruesome kills. This was just way before its time. Not much else to say, just great. 6, Aliens. Okay, so for the longest time I considered this to be better than the first one. I expected it to be leaps and bounds worse, but guys, I'm sorry to say, but the original is better, but we'll get to that in a second. Let's focus on this one. It's still amazing. The main reason I used to consider it better is the fact that it improves in a lot of ways from the original. It has better characters to leave more of a lasting impression, has a better climax, and it's much bigger in scale. I think they handled Ripley a bit better in this one, and the visuals and sets and costumes are just incredible. But the main thing that sets it back for me are actually two things. One, the pacing. The pacing is overall pretty good, but I feel like the first started a lot sooner and ended right when it should have. But this can drag on at some moments. The second thing is that, well, they kind of ruined the aliens themselves. But to get to that, we might as well move on. Gee, I sure do wonder what is number 5. Wow, I have no idea. Number 5. Alien. Wow, what a surprise. Anyways, okay. Like I was saying, the first does an incredible job at setting up the xenomorphs as huge threats and perfect organisms. There was only one, and it took out an entire crew and just barely got beat. So to see hundreds of them getting taken down by a gun is just a little jarring, but now let's talk about what makes Alien both better than Aliens and good as a movie. It's better because, again, the pacing and villains just work better, but also the tone of being stranded and all alone is super great. It feels like at any moment the xenomorph can just jump out, so when it actually does, it makes it a lot more compelling. There's one scene in particular I want to talk about, the vent scene. We already know what would happen if you went in alone, but the fact that you had everyone else on the walkie-talkie established a fake sense of security, and what I really appreciate is that instead of some cheap jump scare, we know exactly when it's coming, but up to the point that we only really saw glimpses of the xenomorph. Oh, sorry, instead of some cheap jump scare, sorry. I love reading. I love reading. I love kids, Charlie. I love kids. Okay, so to see it fully be shown while jumping out the screen legitimately made me jump. Like, that was the first time we saw it just there, and it came out of nowhere, you know? I really wasn't expecting it. There's plenty of other scenes I could talk about, like the Ash scene, which I won't spoil, but has some great effects, and some of the lines are super cool. The ending fight makes Ripley look like just such a cool protagonist. The self-destruct scene really elevated your anxiety, and the chest-bursting scene is... Well, it's the chest-bursting scene, you know why it's great. Overall, this movie is just so far ahead of its time in a rich storytelling, wonderful cast, super impressive special effects, great tone, great sets, and overall, a feeling that very little other horror movies can achieve. I mean, there is one a little later on the list that does it even better than Alien, but we'll get to that when we get to that. 4. Halloween. Even after the extensive sucky sequels to Halloween, even after Halloween franchise was ruined by countless new Halloween timelines, this is still great. You know what, actually, why don't we talk about that a little bit? Here, okay, let's do this real quick. Let's go over how messed up the timelines are. Okay, so we have the original one with Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween The Return of Michael Myers, Halloween The Revenge of Michael Myers, and Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers, because Halloween 3 is in a separate Halloween alternate universe, and the OG Halloween timeline gets way too weird to justify continuing, especially after the simpleness of the original Halloween, and so then they made the H2O timeline, including Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 20 years later, and Halloween Resurrection, which became way too silly and not what Halloween stood for, so it was rebooted again with the movie Halloween, in a new reboot universe consisting of Halloween and Halloween 2, not the regular Halloween and Halloween 2, but the Rob Zombie versions. I've never seen these, but apparently they suck, so, and finally, in 2018, we got Halloween, Halloween Kills, and Halloween Ends, and one final timeline that erases everything but the first Halloween, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, all taking place on Halloween, and Halloween, and Halloween, and Halloween, and all still taking place on the night of Halloween in this new Halloween franchise. Yeah.
Say Halloween again.
Fuck you. I don't know, that was a fun bit, but also shows how stupidly convoluted the series got. What are we talking about again? Oh yeah, Halloween. You know, that one. It's pretty great. I mean, wow, what an original idea, but I'm pretty sure you guys know what makes this movie great. One of my personal all-time favorite horror protagonists, such a simple plot that executes really well. One of my top 10 villains of all time, still holds up in terms of scariest. Pretty amazingly shot, pretty amazingly shot, and pretty amazing kills, great pacing and writing. It's just listen to that score. It's just amazing. Anyways, time for arguably the biggest hot take in the entire list. Strap in. Number 3. Yes, you're seeing that correctly. I do consider Halloween 2018 to be better than the original. Now, before you try to burn me at the stake, just listen up. After a good 3 decades of terrible sequels, the fans needed something, and this movie delivered. You see, there are a couple things that do not contribute when I critique movies. For one, nostalgia, except for the FNAF movies, that's like the only exception. Popularity, as well, it can like influence what I watch. I don't like, for example, I don't like Taylor Swift just because she's popular. I love Taylor Swift. Please don't kill me. And finally, order. What I mean by this is, I do not judge movie based on the order they came out. So, even though Halloween was the first, 2018 was just better and more kills, better design for Michael, better score. Yes, I'm actually saying that, and that's hard for me considering the OG score is one of my favorites of all time. Legacy characters and nostalgia done right, the introduction to the idea of requels. which it just does so well. It's got better pacing and the new characters were great. The climax was perfect, more scary, more gripping, and overall just amazing. If you guys are sleeping on this movie, please don't kill me. In fact, how about this? Next video, I'll make a full deep dive thing comparing the aspects of the original to the new one and showing you why the new one is better. Very slightly, though. Number 2.
Oh, look, Moxie! A thing! Oh, you like that thing? Yes!
Speaking of that movie similar to Alien, that is much better. Yeah, it's in my top 10 movies of all time. With no surprise, this is actually amazing. Oh my god, the wonderful cast and the beautiful cinematography being perfectly scary with some of the best monsters ever, and really good pacing and impeccable writing and amazing directing all tied together with such an amazing plot and execution. Do I even need to mention the practical effects? Some sequences like the Spiderhead, Husky Monster, and ending sequence have some of the most impressive practical effects I've seen in a movie, and I would choose that over digital any day. And the ending, oh my god, the fact that we never get to see really was the thing, and what happens is great, and I legitimately hope it never gets ruined by a sequel, and each moving part in the film flows effortlessly, and it's just an astounding experience. Would highly recommend, a true horror classic. So what's better than that? Number 1, The Shining. Guys, I don't think there will ever be any horror movie that will top this. I truly think The Shining is as good as it can possibly get. Sure, I still need to watch The Exorcist, as many people consider great, but the amount of artistry put in this wonder of a movie is insane. How did mankind make something this impeccable, this profound, this perfect? So is it my favorite movie of all time? No. It's my second, which is barely an insult, as my first, I don't think will be possible to top, but we'll get to that eventually in another video. But let's just focus on this one. Just like with The Lighthouse, outdated script here. I was originally going to make a full-length video on it, but I realized that there's nothing I can say that hasn't been said already. Because, I mean, yeah, really, what hasn't been said already? This is actually, everybody has said it's amazing, but we should probably properly introduce the film. To be clear, and was probably obvious, this is not the 1997 miniseries, but the 1980 classic. It was made by the legendary director Stanley Kubrick and released to astounding reviews and box office gain. Yet, someone who miraculously didn't seem to like it was Stephen King himself. Apparently, he had little involvement with the film and despised it. He said some admittedly outrageous things about it and thought, of all things, the miniseries was better. Then, in 2019, when Dr. Sleep was released, Kubrick revealed something. Apparently, after being in close and tied with the production, made a statement saying he loved the way Dr. Sleep was made, and after making it, Sorry, I'm messing up on something that's extremely important to me. Whatever, okay. He stated he finally understood what made The Shining so good. So what made The Shining so good? Well, pretty much everything. Jack Nicholson's performance is actually amazing. It alone makes Jack Torrance one of my favorite characters in fiction. The wonderful sets, the tone, and the feeling the movie gives, the cinematography that makes for some of the most memorable scenes ever created, which also elevate the tone it gives so well, the amazing story and wonderful pacing, the effects, the perfect ending, the way it sets things up, the incredible score, Shelley Duvall's incredible acting. It is just great. I wish I could keep going, but this video is long enough, so maybe I'll discuss it more in my top 10 movies, because again, second favorite movie of all time. There's a reason for that, but seriously, you just need to watch this. It's just one of those movies you have to see in your lifetime. So that's where I'm gonna end it. Whew, that was a lot, but I'm glad I got to share it with you guys. And even though horror as a whole is very subjective and there is a lot of bad stuff, the highs of the genre are incredible. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, I'm gonna have to keep this short. I say this every time. In fact, these intros or outros, are actually starting to sound the exact same. But yeah, I know this took the longest gap between videos. That's just because of how long it is. I promise I was actually working on it for all 3 months. But don't worry, even though I say this every time, the next 2 videos are actually really short. You know, it's just sort of talking a bit more in depth about some of the stuff I talked about here. So yeah, I don't expect those videos to be longer than like 15 minutes, and I can definitely get those done by the end of summer. So yeah, then after that, the Bendy fan dub will happen. That's what's going to take up most of my time. So no real content after that for a while. But yeah, 2 more videos before the end of summer. Thank you for watching this. If you're here at the end, I want to die because my voice is so... I've gone through like puberty when making this video. It's taken that long because I first recorded it forever ago when I first made the channel. And I've re-recorded this entire video like 10 times. because I kept watching more horror movies and I kept delaying it, but yeah, okay, that's it. Bye.